Hi everyone, JJIR here, and in this video we're going to see how to set up Vim in a simple and efficient manner so you guys can start working immediately instead of worrying about how to configure Vim. So I had a video about this before, didn't like how it turned out, so this is a remake of that. And essentially what I did is I put all the information in an article so that it's easier for everyone to follow along if you're not watching the video. So in this case, all you have to do is open up Medium, look for how to set up and use Vim, and the instructions will also be here. So I'm presupposing you have a Linux container, server, whatnot, open and available to use and follow these instructions. And I am using, for this example, a Ubuntu 20 Linux container here on a Chromebook. And what we're going to do is we're going to first make sure that everything is installed that we need. This is a version container, so it has nothing. I have not touched this yet. All I did was install it and turn it on. So the only thing we're going to do here is we're going to install the very basic, essential things that we need just to make sure that there's no errors that come out afterwards in relationship to using Vim. So all you have to do is come here, copy this part here, which I will also leave under the video in the video description. And we're going to go over here and we're going to Control-Shift-V here just to have that here. And like I said, the idea here is that it simply updates anything it needs to update. We're adding the very basics here. So we have build essentials, CMake, Git, Vim itself, just to make sure it's there, and anything else that we need, just to make sure that we're up to date and ready to go. And then afterwards, we'll start looking at Vim itself. Okay, so that took about 5 minutes to get everything updated. And like I said, this is a fairly good thing to do before you start playing around with Vim just to make sure you don't have any errors there. So here we're just going to clear this up so we're ready to go. And now we can start playing around with Vim itself. So here in the article, what I have done is I've put the configuration for the Vim Rc file, and then down below, most of, not all, but most of the keyboard shortcuts that you're going to use to actually move yourself within Vim. And then down below at the end, I have the keyboard shortcuts that I created to make things easier for myself. So it's very straight to the point type of thing. You shouldn't be lost in any way, shape, or form. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to go over here, and now in our updated Linux container, we're going to type out vim space dot vimrc to actually go into the Vim file configuration. So we're going to click on enter there, and it will give us something like this. Now, as we have here in the article, down below you have the possibility of editing things with I. So the only thing I have to do is click on I here. As you can see down below, it says insert. And insert, it means that you're editing something within Vim, essentially. So all you have to do is click on I, and you're in, and you're editing. No problems there. So afterwards, what we're going to do is we're literally going to copy and paste this configuration. So after you select this in the article here, we're going to click on Control-C to copy that, and we'll paste it in. I'm underlining here, this is the absolute easiest way of configuring everything in one fell swoop. You don't even have to do anything with the plug extension here. It just automatically installs itself and installs everything else, which I have down here, immediately. So no problems here. So we're going to go over here, and we're going to click on Control-Shift-V to paste that in. And then after we're done, given the fact my personalized keyboard shortcuts are not active yet, the only thing you need to do here is you're going to click on escape. Escape gets you out of the insert or editing mode. So we're going to click on escape. And then afterwards, what we're going to do is we're going to type a colon and then an X. Colon X means we're going to write this. We're going to save it and write it. Write it and save it. So we're going to click on enter after we do that. So colon X, enter. And what that does is saves that. It's written the information in the file. It saves that, and it's all ready to go. But we need to activate everything we essentially installed with the plug Vim extension manager. So we're going to go up one. We're going to click on our arrow keys here. We're going to go up with the arrow key, and that's going to give us the vim.vimrc thing again. We're going to click on enter here, and it's going to tell us that there's an error. Why? Because the plug extension manager has to install the color scheme. So what we're going to do here is all we have to do is click on enter, and that is going to install everything. As you can see, it was just about a second it took. After that's done, all we have to do is click on Q. Q will get us out of the Plug Extension Manager area. We're going to click on Q, and now we're all set to go. So literally everything has now been installed that we need. Everything is configured. All of our keyboard shortcuts or configured keyboard shortcuts are all set to go. We don't have to do anything else. So now we could just click on the classical keyboard shortcut to get out of this. But if we go to my article here, as you can see, I've actually configured a special one, which is Shift Q to get out. So Shift Q, essentially what that's doing is it's doing the :X enter type of thing. So if I go back here and I click on Shift Q, that automatically closes everything up. And then here we can clear everything by typing clear, enter, and then we're ready to go. So all of our Vim stuff is now configured. We didn't have to do anything. We're all set to go. We can start working now with Vim. So we're going to go back into the Vim configuration file just to look a little bit about how we have everything configured here. So again, we're going to go up with our arrow keys back to vim.vimrc, go into here, and we'll start explaining things. Now, to go up and down, all we have to use is J and K. So J is to go down, K is to go up. And the first part here that we have is just the configuration element of quote unquote installing the Plug Extension Manager here. And usually you'd have to do, if you use another extension manager, this is a whole bunch of steps that you'd have to do in the past. Now, all you have to do is pop it into the configuration file and you're set to go. Really, really simple. Then down below here, we have the extensions that we want to add. We have an autosave one. We have a TypeScript extension here that we'll see in other videos because that has to do with Google Apps Script. So we're going to deal with Google Apps Script now in Vim instead of having to use Google Drive to jump into that. And then we also have Lightline, which is this guy down below. It just gives a very clear statement of what state you're in and whatnot. So I like that better. And then we have the color scheme here. And that's it. That's all we're using. Now, I know a lot of people like to add "you complete me" for auto-completing code and whatnot. I found that very complex. I'm going to try to find an easier, simpler way to auto-complete code. I really don't use it as much because almost everything I do in code is abbreviated. I know some people don't like that, but what I like to do is just make sure my code is as thin as possible. So we're talking about almost only just 40 characters wide, so I can actually code on a cell phone, which is part of the reason why I love using Vim, because it's universal and you can use it anywhere. So I actually code on an Android smartphone, and that helps me to make sure that the code is not too long. So that's a personal preference. You don't have to do that. But the point is, I found out that I didn't use "you complete me" as much as I went along trying to do things in coding. So I'm going to try to find an easier way. I'll make a video on that if I do find it. But for now, I don't have it here because I didn't see the need. And it makes things more complex. So I decided to get rid of it and just go as simple as possible so everyone can start out. So that's all we have here. And then we have certain things down here that we need. And this is basically just setting this up so that I have essentially 2 spaces for my indentation for Python. I don't like using 4 because, again, when I'm working on my cell phone, that's way too much space. So here we have everything set up so that we only have 2 spaces. So that's basically what all of this is here for, just to make sure that it respects my Python files and that all the tabs are set up. So everything here, from here down to here, essentially up to this part here, is just to make sure that we have the possibility of having those 2 spaces for the tabs. Then down below, we have set number. Set number is basically having these numbers here. You can actually take that, put it on or off, whatever you want. Then the text width is just to make sure I don't go over 80 characters, which is what Python asks of us. Then we have the cursor line, the last status, and the split right, which are all just little things for when I'm opening up different spaces or buffers here in Vim. And then down below, we have our configurations that I use. Now, on a Chromebook, this is very complex, and it took me a while to get it set up. Why? Because on a Chromebook, Control-W does a different thing, which is close tabs and windows. So in this case, I can't use it here, and so a lot of this had to be remapped to make sure that I could move around. So essentially, what L and H does here, the Shift L and H, because these are uppercase, you have to be careful of that. That will go back and forth between different tabs or buffers in this case. And then DK gets you out of the terminal. That also Vim has after 8.1. So we're going to see that in a second. FF is my escape key. I don't like going up to click on the escape key, so I just click on FF twice, and that jumps me out of anything I'm at. And then we have the auto completion here, mini auto completions of parentheses, quotation marks, and double quotation marks, which I also use within Python. Then down below, we have a few things that we use for in regards to tabs. So these three things are for tabs. Then we have Q and W. These are for elements that we need to escape from. So Q is to obviously escape out of the edit mode. So if we have the map Q here, which is, again, these are uppercase. You have to be very careful with uppercase and lowercase. The uppercase here opens up our file manager. You can use nerd tree. Again, that takes up CPU. I wanted to make this simple, so we didn't add that. But essentially, if you put on a Shift W, that opens up your nerd tree here. And to get out of this, funny enough, it's a little more complex. So what I have here is I have BD set up to where we have this ready to go, so you can get out of that. In regards to ER, C, and X, all of these are actually to move. So for example, if I want to go all the way down, all I do is click on C in normal mode, because remember, we have to be in normal mode to move around. This J and this K and the C, X, all these types of things, you have to be outside of the editing mode. So if you're trying to edit something and all of a sudden you try to do these keys, all you're going to do is going to get letters. So you have to make sure that you have clicked on F 2 times to get out of that. You're in normal mode, and then you're able to move around. So in this case, I can click on C to go down, and it goes down by page, or I can go click on X to go up. Or if I want to go down just a few lines, then we have Shift E to go down half a page and Shift R to go up a half a page. So those types of things are just to make it easier to move around. We also have the possibility of opening up terminals, like I mentioned before. So we have the Shift B here, and what that does, it opens the terminal up. And if I want to get out of this terminal, I have to click on DK very quickly. So that's something we saw up here above using our new keyboard shortcuts. So if you see these here, we have DK, that escapes from that. And again, that's for the Control W we cannot use on a Chromebook. So the DK will pull me out of that. And then if I click on Shift L for the left, I can actually go back into the terminal or whatever buffer I have here open. So that's actually very, very useful and very quick to use. So I can actually program something on the left and then run it on the right without having to leave Vim, so to speak. So that actually reduces the amount of time you're using to program things. If I'm in the terminal, all I have to do is click on exit here, and that jumps me out of that. I can also use a horizontal terminal, which I use with Shift K. So if I click on Shift K, it opens up on the bottom. And again, I can click on get out of that by exit. Then with SS, I just simply close a file. That's really quick, so I like using that. And then the Shift F allows me to resize the pixels for one space. So for example, if I have two things open, and I wanted to resize this, I just click on Shift F and it resizes things like this. This is also very helpful for the smartphone when you're using it like that. Shift M just suspends Vim, so it goes into the terminal. I can actually run things there. I don't use it as much because I have the terminal here to the right, but you can use it to suspend Vim, go into the terminal, and then come back to this using FG. We have our advanced search, which allows you to search for certain things with just S, and it does all of this. These left here just moves it over so you can start typing in a certain area. EE allows me to comment out things, and RR allows me to uncomment things in Python. And you can configure this to do it directly within JavaScript as well, or you can add your own so that you can automatically comment and uncomment things within JavaScript or Python just by using something as simple as that. And then we have VS, which allows us to open up a file right next to this one. So if we go into our terminal here, well, actually, we want to exit out of that one. And if we go into the one beside us and exit out that, if I go to VS, I can actually open up another file to the side. So I thought this was actually much faster. So we can do test py here. And what that will do is open up another file right next to this. And I can start working on this. So for example, here, if I click on I and do def and then just test here, as if I was doing something with Python, double F allows me to escape. Shift A allows me to edit this at the very end of something. So here I got messed up here with my text, but here, if I do Shift A, like I mentioned, it will bring the cursor to the end and allow me to edit. I can put my colon here now. FF will allow that to stop. And then I can use EE to comment that out, and RR to uncomment it. So very, very simple ways of working with these things. And like I said before, SS allows us to close that. BD, as I mentioned before, is allowing us to close a buffer, especially the file manager, which doesn't seem to like to be closed very much. So I use BD just to close anything I want to have closed in a definitive manner. So down below, we have our autosave things that we need. Those especially, we have browser splits and window sizing and all that type of stuff is set here. But the most important for me is autosaving. I have this set to where it's saving every second, so I don't have to worry about it. So if something happens, if the power goes out, if I lose connection by SSH to something, I'm not worried about it because everything is automatically saved in the file manager here in the Linux container without having me to worry about saving things constantly. And this has been a game changer for me to work, so I don't have to worry about things when I'm working on something. It's always being saved automatically, similar to a Google Doc, so to speak. And then down below, the final thing we have here is the color scheming. And this I use especially for when I'm using my transparent terminal, which we will see in a second. But essentially what that allows me to do is to make sure that everything I'm using in the transparent terminal comes out perfect and I don't have to worry about things being colored in a very weird manner. So now if I open up my transparent terminal, which I will also leave a link to so you can see how I have this transparent terminal set up on a Chromebook. But basically a transparent terminal allows me to see things in the background. And if, for example, I'm coding something and I want to try to imitate something that's already online, what this allows me to do is I don't even have to have a split view. I just have the code open up in a transparent terminal, and then I can start typing whatever I see in the background. So this is also pretty awesome, and I've enjoyed this a lot, and it's helped me a lot to save a lot of time. So this type of setup helps tremendously, and that's essentially what we're seeing here. If I click on Shift G to go down to the very bottom, you can see this color scheme here allows me to make this compatible with a transparent terminal. So this has helped also tremendously, and I hope this will help you guys as well. So if we go back here to the article again, just to summarize this, at the end, you will have your keyboard shortcuts. So my suggestion is to look through this, start practicing a little bit with these keyboard shortcuts with Vim, and that should help you get up and running, so to speak, with the projects you want to start using. We will be using Vim in the future for things for Google Apps Script because I'm going to move away from what we have in Google Drive. I find this much easier. And in future videos, we'll explain how to use Clasp with this so that you guys can start using this later on. So I hope with everything we've seen so far, this helps you guys get up and running with Vim. If you have any questions or comments, please leave those in the comment section below, and I'll be more than happy to take a look at those. Otherwise, hopefully I'll see you guys in the next one, and take care.